Yo, yo, man, technology is a blessing, a curse, and just a reason to be pissed off sometimes, too. I don't know what happened, but whatever happened, it got us cut off. My computer froze, had to restart my computer. Yeah, all that good stuff. But I had Darren Scott on again, and man, my brother was cooking. We were walking, taking a walk in the park, and we're trying to piece together Juneteenth and the American Continuum. Happy Juneteenth to everybody. Before I go into this a little bit, this recap and closing statement, I just want to, give a congratulations and a big shout out to Nikki Nice. She won Senate District 48 last night in the state of Oklahoma. Big shout out to Nikki Nice. Man, she should be a household name by now. If not, she will be a household name. An incredible leader, someone that is for everyone, who's passionate about community. And she stands on principles that everyone can relate to. And I think that she's going to be a great leader for the state of Oklahoma in District 48. And I'm looking forward to seeing her leadership into the future. So shout out to Nikki Nice, Oklahoma Senate District 48, running a great campaign and a great race. Also, shout out to Brittany Grant. Brittany Grant had a great race. She ran a great race. There's a lot to say about her race and her opponent. I think Brittany Grant's a great leader. I think she's for the people. And she's not hiding anything. I don't want to spend too much time on her opponent, and I don't want to be a hater, but I've done my research, and one thing that I've realized, and one thing we want to try to get to here today on the Juneteenth special is what is Juneteenth? Why is it important? And those of you that don't know, I'm an activist on behalf of the American Descendants of Slavery Advocacy Foundation. And our argument is for reparations, delineation, and collective uplift within the African-American ADOS community. And we believe in being politically involved is the answer to majority of our problems and issues. I had a clip queued up from Yvette Carnell. That should be a household name as well. You don't know who Yvette Carnell is, you need to stop this and Google her and watch some of her videos. I will say, listen with an open mind. She's real passionate about what she does, and she's very intelligent. She's about 20 years ahead of the average citizen, and I highly recommend you guys go check her out. But a lot of our arguments are, hey, black isn't just black. Black is lineage. American blackness is uniquely different than African black and blacks from around the world. And one thing we've found are a lot of black people in this country. I don't want to say a lot. Some black people in this country that are in leadership and that represent the black community aren't of the ADOS lineage. And so their perspective and lens and how they govern and how they lead isn't fully intact to the black American plight and history. And so that's one thing I've realized in the District 99 or District 98 race is, one candidate is ADOS and another candidate is Native American, but she passes herself as being African American. And this conversation is for a different day, but before I get myself in any hot water and get any further into this conversation, because it's going to take some time, I got to draw it out, and I want it to be clear. But just to avoid all that, shout out to Brittany Grant. Congratulations, AJ Pittman. But we're going to get to that district and the trouble with people that look black but aren't black in terms of their plight and their experience in this country. But Devin just popped back on. Looks like he got some grub in him. We were briefly talking about the American system, how it's evolved, and how the Negro fits within that. And we didn't get to touch too much on the importance of Juneteenth, but we're gonna close this thing out. My kids are ready for bed. Darren looked like he's got some grub in him. I'm about ready to go grab some grub myself. But happy Juneteenth to everybody. Darren, you were on it. You were on to something. You were talking about our situation in this country and how it's kind of been somewhat of a strategic plan to organize around our failure, and somewhat of a just so happens. And I believe that in one way to correct this course of action, or this course of trajectory, would be to be more politically involved. Do you think that African Americans or ADOS people become more politically involved, that we'll have more control of our destiny?
Yes, and a full-on follow-through on that.
A full on what?
A full-on follow-through. If you're going to say you want to be politically involved, that means you're politicking for what? Laws to give you benefits.
Right.
Cool. So what other laws are you going to follow? Are you going to follow the financial laws as well? You're going to follow the citizenship laws? You're going to follow the citizenship responsibility laws? And draft? Like what? Where is the line between individual freedom and autonomy and civil responsibility in this new template that we're asking for African Americans to be put upon? Because that's what benefits are done. They're estimated as to what it's going to garner for the country. As long as it looks like it's going to be bad, then there you go. So it's less of a... If your son said he's ready to drive right now, right, and he proved all the ways you holding him back by not letting him drive the car right now, because if he got to drive to school, you wouldn't have to wake up, and he wouldn't have to deal with any mess, and he could make his own breakfast at school, right? But he's how old?
Yeah.
And what would he do with that car?
Go wherever the hell he wants to.
Exactly. But he hasn't crashed it yet. So who are you to say that just because he doesn't have a license and isn't old enough? All right, that's any group that goes to a government and says, I want to be put on the sticks behind the wheel of a highly advanced vehicle without knowing how to operate it, how to fix it, how to line it up. If you're going to be politically involved, right, this is why people, it's a misconception to say that someone wants to be politically correct. To be politically correct, what are politics? Politics are the extension of civilities on behalf of economic interests. So these people want something, so let's talk about it. That's politics. Yeah. And so when you
here's the thing, man. Like, why are black people so afraid to be involved with politics? It's more, are you watching the game? Are you watching the Ken and Friends concert? Which I'm wanting to pull it up. Let's see. Our attention is so easily like grabbed and we like, here I am. We're having a discussion about Juneteenth, and Kendrick Lamar is killing the stage. I'm watching this, and here I am wanting to advocate for us to be more politically involved, but Kendrick Lamar is killing this concert, and it looks pretty dope, the energy and all of it. But what do you think about getting past that?
Getting past what?
The distractions, the things that aren't as important as being politically active and involved with changing our trajectory as a group of people.
I think it's I'll give a real world example to a very humbling story about a career woman who ended up leaving the country with her son. She married a foreign immigrant, brought him here to this country. They had a child together, and she did not fully understand what she was up against in this country. And so she got busy, work, job, so on and so forth. And then she outpaces her spouse. Her spouse gets left behind. He ends up with free time at the house. cheats because he's just left at the house with nothing to do. There's no anything to do except maintain the life that she's not living in the house she's not at because she's working. So she comes back to an unfaithful husband. 3 years pass by after the divorce, and her child starts having mental health problems. And when the doctor asked, well, where did these start? When did these start? She said, I don't know. And then she realized that 85 hours a week, she was away from her kid. The moment that doctor explained to her that her child's whole brain, soul, the way he thinks and is aware about things is being left in the hands of strangers 85 to 100 hours a week, she grabbed that child, quit her job, left the country. And I say that because African Americans as a community have not had that gut check. We have not been shown what will this cost us to get that level of success, to get that level of work rate, and to go through the transition process of this. So you're asking where we fit. We're fitting where we're at now, which is the best middle ground of saying, okay, that's what success looks like. If you want it, start acting like that. So do I think being more politically involved is a good thing? Yes, as well as civilly responsible, as well as supportive of communities and each other.
Right.
And how to deal with the distractions, turn them off.
Yeah.
In every person's life that you know, turn off the distractions. That's actually one of the number one reasons I'm not allowed around some of my friends. But it's also one of the reasons that my closest friends invite me to their barbecues. They ask me to babysit their kids because we notice these things when we get involved. And then from watching someone who's immature and doesn't know what they're operating, asking for rights that they don't need because their basic rights have not been fully explored or enforced. One of the aspects about African American experience is noting the rights of the pursuit of happiness, life, and liberty that we don't get. And when we say we don't get that, and then the statistics show that, and then we exemplify that, and then the other side, as we see, denies that, it's difficult. So I tell you now that being politically involved is really good. It is really good when
Necessary.
we get our people to vote.
Yeah.
When we can get our people to write policies and legislatures.
Right.
When we can get past the distractions and the madness have not been the problem with me reaching African Americans. The main thing that I would say is peace is the most difficult thing to sell. If you mention that peace is involved with something, that is the number one thing that I've seen most Americans reject immediately. And so when African Americans get that taste of the rebellious mindset, it's made to do that. So if you're going to have politics, I want it to be understood that the aspect of politics and politicians getting along with the mass populace is a new concept to this point. Leaders were always disjointed and appointed above the mass populaces where they were. Even in the most native put away tribes, the chief or the medicine man, they have their own tent, they have their own space, they are away from the influences and the distractions of it. You have the influences and the distractions around the people who need influences and distractions. So, which is usually the working class, because they should be spending most of their time working, but we spend more time on addictions in this country, which with the extra time that is meant to help us get the extra wealth that we say has not been given to us. Right. So there are cycles, and when we see one cycle, that's not the end of it. It's like you coming out your house, you see one season, oh, it's summer, it's hot. And you shut the door, cover up the windows, and like, hey man, it's gonna be hot outside forever. Like you know, like yeah, it's gonna be cold outside forever. You gotta, that's what I'm saying. So it has been a shocking experience coming back into America as a black male, when as a descendant of slavery, as someone who is actually connected to the Civil War bloodlines and original landowners, as well as finding out that there were slave owners in my family. And then I survived the war on drugs as a youth and joined the military under the government that I assumed was making this happen. And then as soon as I made six figures and I got to the federal level, I realized it's worlds apart.
Mm.
It's like the different world. Like when you go to a basketball game in your backyard neighborhood versus when you go to sitting courtside at the Lakers, that's the difference between the worlds that I experienced, and the marketplaces and the businesses and the noise and the differences in between those environments was something that had to be outlined to me before I could stop responding to the differences and then saying there's a plan behind those differences to kill me. I was cracking. I was going crazy when I got here. The best thing that helped me was meeting successful black men who had families. And when I met them, I noticed that those men did not try to initiate contact with the woman I was with. They didn't try to shake hands. They didn't try to hug. They didn't try anything. I noticed that they were short-lived, usually because they weren't lying, exaggerating, or kissing ass. I noticed that they were not concerned with meeting the definition of real or authentic, instead of just being themselves and laying it out. And I realized that that is not designed for business, because business is designed off of warfare without bullets.
Wow.
It's civil warfare. That's why women are so good at it, because that's what it is. We choose business instead of killing. However, in the purpose of business being a different option from business, this is why many women are not good at sustained long-term business, because it's based off of sustained long-term peace, which means it means averting war, which means it means understanding and working with and cooperating with people, not owning a bunch of resources and telling people what to do because we are the boss. Due a certain amount of respect due to our title. That's not how people work.
Yeah.
So we have been trying to implement cycles that we want into cycles we don't understand. And that is very dangerous, because all of this depends on us all living in a contained environment together.
Right.
So if you want the contained environment to work, that's how it is. Like at some point, like, it's how it is. If you on the ship, like you're gonna have to be on the crew. Like at some point, you're gonna have to row. Like you
Facts.
So
well, look, we've been going at this for almost 2 hours, man. I've got the eyeball from my wife. Right. Let's put a pin in this and come back to it maybe in a week or two. Yeah. And man, I appreciate you for cooking up, giving us something to think about. Mm-hmm. I do. Let me rephrase that. I am passionate about this country. Mm-hmm. I believe in this country. And our ancestors fought for us to be free in this country, to experience the things that we've been able to experience as free people. And so I see at every level of me working towards, living, experiencing time with my family, I see the obstacles as being worth it. I see the bloodshed and sweat as being worth it. But I will not denounce this country for what my family has gone through. And, the future that I believe is, the future that I believe that my kids and their kids will have in this country.
Speaking of kids, before putting a pin in it real quick, you wanted me to ask about the Yvette thing. When to respond to that. And she to put a pin in it. She said that it's best to remove the Africa worship because we're not going to get anything from Africa worship.
Right. Yeah.
That's another example of showing how the white majority affects the black minority. The majority of white people in this country, they come to learn about the African American experience through the lens of African worship.
Mm.
And so what do black people do? We dress up like that in order to show that pride in this country that we're not from. We are going through an American experience, not an African one.
That's right.
Because even if we danced and all wore Shaka Zulus, and then if we all deployed the entire black African American descendant of slavery group, ADOS 1, and we deployed them back to Africa, they would have nothing for us.
Right.
We were removed from that entire economy, from that nation, from that land.
That's right.
We have not produced or taken anything from that land for years.
Right. This is it for us.
This is it for us. We were born here.
Right.
What are the cards? Here we go. So to go back to her and to give you full credit on this, I am only able to respond to these issues and like the approach that helped me bridge how you think versus how I think was you kept asking, what's the cause of us not getting along? Here's the cause. We had the Constitution. It did not address many of the issues that we have now. We had the Supreme Court and the different levels of leadership and power that were in places at the time in different whoever's, right? It was disorganized and it became a crapshoot. So that has disseminated now and moved on a couple hundred years.
Right.
Plus, there are evil people in there. Plus, there are adverse groups in there. Plus, it's unfair. Plus, there's police brutality. Plus, there's prison systems. Plus, so on and so forth. So, to put a pin in that, you motivated me to, for the first time in my life, find out that the author of Roots, Alex Haley, came up with Malcolm X.
Really?
And he wrote Malcolm X's autobiography. And that brought together so many different aspects of Malcolm X's life that I did not know except through the American white culture lens of how he was portrayed on TV, which he was constantly on a high horse, well-dressed, and always in every shape or the form, silently diffusing situations with more violence. So I wanted to share these things with you and thank you for those inspirations while you're putting a pin in it. And to answer what she's saying about African worship is correct. The problem with being correct is that it doesn't make money and it doesn't make sense to people who haven't been exposed to it. Right. The majority of people who affect money things in this country are white. They cannot be brought on board to helping the black community if the black community excludes white people, labels white people, and supports the labels that white people put on us.
That's right.
We can't literally, it's like, it would be like you telling me you need to refinance your house. And I say, great. I grab you by the collar, take you to the liquor store, we down a bottle of Jack each, and we hit the nightclub. And I'm like, all right, cool. Talk numbers to me. Right? I introduced too much noise around us trying to have a conversation in order for us to have a proper conversation. And I support being in a place where it's hard for us to have a conversation. I realized I was doing that my whole life up until I moved to Fort Collins and I bought a house here. And so I share these things with you because I'm learning that there are problems and there are solutions. There are middle grounds and there are gray areas. There are swamps, there are cesspools, there is all that. And I'm trying to show as many black men as I can how to navigate that. And only one of my friends has listened to me and has came up with me for 11 years. I swear, I gotta make sure he makes
it. Be like that too, man. Only one. And then everybody else, like you said, they can't grasp the gravity of the conversations being had and the details behind it, and so they just walk off and would rather much be distracted.
Mhm.
But man, I appreciate you, man.
We'll talk black business later, and
Yeah.
the purpose of black men in America and the
Yo,
stereotypes.
we'll get to our outline for sure.
For you to put a pin in, you asked me a question about black dads.
Yeah.
Where we belong politically. One of the avenues of where black men belong politically is where we belong in the eyes of the mass populace. There are more women alive than men, and there are more white women politically involved than there are black people in America.
Mm-hmm.
So how are we perceived in the eyes of white women when there are no other people around?
Right.
Is something that needs to be
talked about.
Yeah. Because that will expose how do white women receive education about black men, and how do black men receive education other than happenstancely left their families and meet each other at random in public somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. So when I looked at this, the biracial, and to answer your family question, you are not a black and white family. You are not a biracial family. You are neither of those things because you had to make up those things. You are a American family within America's borders.
Yeah. Well, see, here's the thing. Nobody wants to talk about what it means to be American.
You are an African American male.
Yeah.
In 30s. Do you have your degree?
No. Incomplete.
Okay. All the things that you put on a security clearance packet, that's how the government sees people. Because they need to organize information to say this many people who use this much water, who use this much power are in this area. That's the original purpose of it. Everything else is things that people have added to.
Like race.
Yeah. So I'm giving you that so you know what you're up against. When you read your tax statement, that's how the government sees you. Everything else is the company, the people, your boss, and people in traffic. So when I started to read how Malcolm X perceived the world, and I saw just a couple things I had an issue with, but I noticed the general direction that he was pointing in was so far removed from what most political platforms want from the ground level. He promoted continuity and communication across the board of all departments. He wanted all eyes to be able to see every level. Oh, okay. Both sides do not want. That's why Martin Luther King was killed as well, because he asked for what? Transparency. There's a difference between asking to play in the game versus asking to be a referee versus asking to be the ref, play in the game, and be able to bet on the game. So,
yeah, we'll have to get to that when we got a little bit more time, because I have quite a few objections to how they did my dog Martin Luther King. But man, I appreciate you, brother. That was good. Let's put a pin in it, and we'll get back to the questions that we had outlined.
Answer your core questions. I was like, oh snap, let me get the.
No, we got into it, man. We got the cooking, and I appreciate you as always sharing your wisdom.
Yeah. Well, all right, Darren. I told you I'll do this one off the hip. The next one, we're
gonna stay structured. Yeah, I agree. All right, big dog.
Had some coffee.
you turn back up. All right, I'm gonna get these kids to sleep and get something in my belly, man. I love you, brother, and I'll talk to you soon. Happy Juneteenth. Peace. Well, there you have it, folks. You've heard it yourself from the man himself, Darren Evans. Listen, I forgot all about this Ken and Friends concert. I'm easily distracted. I've got ADD, HD, double HD, and I don't have much of a after statement because I want to watch this concert. So y'all be good. Happy Juneteenth. Stay tuned. I'll be back for another live. I'll have more guests. Don't forget, everyone has vision. The question is, who are you and what are you looking for? Happy Juneteenth. I love you guys. I'm out.